If you believe that AI is as intelligent as you are, you're right.
Welcome to The Big Puzzle. In this podcast, we explore the subtle connections between science, religion, politics, economics, and history. One piece at a time, we unveil the big picture of this shared experience that we call life.
Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's imagine a society that it's so simple that they only have 100 questions. And they also have the corresponding 100 answers. So at some point, one of their top scientists come up with an idea, say, well, why don't we create a system by which we can connect each question with its answer? So he grabs 100 note cards and a blue marker, and with a blue marker in each of the cards writes one of the questions. Then grabs a red marker, and on the other side they just write the answer, the corresponding answer. So now you have this system. When you have a question, you go look for your question in the 100 cards. Once you find it, you pick it, you turn around, and you have the answer, right? So that is a very simple society with a very simple system to access all the knowledge that they have. Now let's say that the society starts becoming more complicated, and they start having more questions, and they find the answer for those questions. So they keep using this system, adding more and more cards. But it's still the same process. Find your question, flip it around, you get your answer. Would we call that system intelligent? Are those cards intelligent at all? Are they conscious? Are they self-aware? Can they find answers to questions that were not asked? Well, obviously not. It's just a system. It's just an index system to connect what you know, to record what you know, for easier access. But let's keep on with this society, and at some point they have so many questions that it's very difficult to keep them in cards. So they realize something. Say, you know what? Many of these questions kind of have the same format. So you could start answering this question with this concept, and then you have to change this at the end. So I say, okay, let's then do something different. Let's keep the questions, in cards, but each card will have a series of numbers in the back. And then we have a book, that say, well, if you have this number, you go here, grab this card. If you have this other number. So you build the answer based on, your question. And that allows you to kind of compress, to categorize, to keep all that knowledge, in a more organized way. But as always, there's no free meal. So once you start doing that, you lose some of the richness of the answers, right? When you say, okay, all these questions start the same way, they don't really exactly start the exact same way, but you are simplifying them in order to make it more accessible. So at some point you end up having 1 million questions. Now the cards with the questions are not useful anymore, so you have another system. How does your question start? What is the topic about? So you kind of create this ever-evolving indexing system where you decompose your question, right? Then you go to those complex books and indexes and everything, and you build an answer. Again, does this have any intelligence? Not at all. It's just a process. It's just a process that you follow that's completely documented, that it will always give you the exact same answer. Even though it's a little degraded, like we said. But then they started noticing something. They say, oh, well, we came up with a new question that is not really in the approved list of questions that we have. It's really a new question. But we realized something. If we use the same system and we just pick the closest parts of the answer kind of makes sense. And in many cases, it does make sense. So you say, well, this is cool. Well, yeah, because your question was close enough to other questions, right? So the answers, you already had the pieces there, and it makes sense that you're close enough, and you will have something that makes sense. Does that turn the system intelligent? Does it make the books and the cards and everything self-aware? Do they develop consciousness? Obviously not. There's still a process, a deterministic process that you follow. But you also notice something. Once in a while, we ask a question and we follow this, process of finding the near thing, and the results are just BS, right? No, the answer is not correct at all. So we can call those hallucinations. Our system, our cards, our paper, our books are hallucinating. So we start kind of thinking about this system as something that has some intelligence when it is not. I mean, you can learn all the steps and you can learn how it was built and everything. Yeah, at some point it's so complex that it's not worth going through the effort, say, okay, why this, why that? You just want the answer, so you will follow the process, right? But that has nothing to do with intelligence. It's just following instructions, right? The system is an instruction-based system. Now, at this point, you realize what I'm talking about. That's what AI is, right? AI is just a set of instructions. When you train an AI, and most of them are based on this very interesting concept of neural networks that I talk about in other videos, so I won't be repeating myself. But yeah, it's a very clever algorithm that has some very useful cases, but it also has its limitations. And we fully understand the limitations. We created it, right? So again, following rules, following instructions is not intelligence. Now, what I'm claiming is that this is a deterministic system. What do I mean by deterministic? Deterministic means that if you ask the same question, you will end up always getting the exact same answer, right? So it's linear, it's just following a process. But you say, well, but that is not true. That is not how AI works. And I will put an example, I hope here now, where I asked the ChatGPT the same question 2 times in a row, the exact same question. And it gave me 2 different answers. I mean, conceptually, they're saying the same thing. I'll let you read a little. Well, basically, it's just saying, yeah, the best time to live is this, but the focus is different, right? In one case, it's more comparing with other times. And so why would the same thing give me 2 different answers if this is a deterministic system? Well, because as we're going to be talking after this, intelligence is not deterministic. It cannot be deterministic, and that's why AI is not intelligent, because it is deterministic. So why do we see 2 different results then? Well, because that's something that they added. They added some flavor into the AI, so some randomization. And if you want to go through that rabbit hole, you can try to learn how difficult it is to create true randomization. So in computers, since they are deterministic by nature, just zeros and ones, it's kind of very difficult without having some external input to create a real randomness, which creates a lot of problems with encryption and many other things. So the best that we can get is a pseudo-randomness, something that creates something that doesn't seem to follow a pattern, even though it does. But they added this so AI would sound more human. the same reason why they add some hesitation in the voice, some that it feels really awkward and unnatural, right? But we're getting used to it, which is sad, because a big part of the communication, I just said the and that's part of how I speak when I'm trying to, not follow a script, and things are processing in my head and not in my mother language. By the way, hello, Mom. So it's part of what makes me human. And they're mimicking that in a very weird way, just adding it, feeling like, oh, that will make people feel more comfortable with the cards and books and the hyper-convoluted index that we've created, right? So that randomness is added, and now they painted themselves into a corner, because now they cannot produce, for instance, reliable code. That is one of the cases that you could argue that LLMs or artificial intelligence could work the best. Well, but now these systems have this randomness that we call stochastic, right? And they don't write the same code twice. So that is a big problem. But also, the main problem is hallucinations, right? Because these systems don't have all the answers. They don't know all the code. They're just building it from the pieces following the book, right? Well, from all the partial note cards and following a book that points to another book, to point to another book, and, to a billion different cards. That's how it works. There's no intelligence, there's no consciousness. It's a process. It's following rules, it's following instructions. And without the added randomness, that will always give the same answer, right? But I keep saying intelligence, and that is the next step. Then what is intelligence? I should say that if it's deterministic, cannot be intelligent, and that should give us a clue. But before we go there, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be talking about intelligence from a secular point of view. I'm planning to record another video when I will talk more from a spiritual point of view. And for me, it's very interesting because it's one of those few occasions where those things, the scientific secular approach and the spiritual religious, come very, very close. So it's exciting because some of the things I'm sharing, I actually figured them out, or I don't know if I figured them out. I came to my mind by reading scripture. So we'll go there in the next video. But for this one, let's go back to this idea of what intelligence is. Philosophers have been discussing about everything since ever. And at some point, when you question absolutely everything, you run out of things to question. And that was happening with many of these philosophers when they came up with, one explanation of how the universe works. And then somebody else questioned the premises. So where do we start? Or where do we stop? And now we come with one of these guys, so René Descartes. And he was kind of questioning everything himself. And so I said, well, where do I start? Where I start building, my philosophy, or any philosophy. And he said, well, I think I exist. I can at least say that. And, in a formal way, what he said and written in Latin is cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, I exist. So you can prove your existence because you have consciousness, you have intelligence, and intelligence and consciousness are indivisible. You cannot have intelligence without consciousness, and I will explain why. So he came up to this idea and said, okay, I'll start there. I exist. Right? I don't know if this tree here exists. I don't know if the mountains back there exist, but I do know that I do exist because I perceive myself. I think. So thinking is perceiving yourself. Can a bunch of books, can a bunch of notes, thank you, yeah. Can a bunch of zeros and ones, magnetic or electric fields, can they think? No, they can't. Can they perceive themselves? No, they can't. Can they ever be conscious? No, they can't. I'm not talking about Kant, the philosopher. They cannot, right? So this idea of perceiving yourself as the base of everything, but that has a very first corollary that would be that you need to have freedom. So intelligence requires freedom. That's why I say you cannot have a deterministic system being intelligent, because you need to have the ability to choose. And that's what Descartes chose. He chose to think. He chose to perceive himself. He chose to came up with a conclusion, and he chose to use that conclusion to start building, his thought process. So that shows that Descartes was intelligent, or at least it shows me that I'm intelligent, right? Because I perceive myself, I can make choices, right? And that ability to make choices is what we call agency. So you are your own agent. So now it's very ironic that AI, now is co-opting the word agents when they're anything but, right? They don't have agency. Those agents are just deterministic, instruction following, rules following processes with some added pseudo randomness on top of them to make them feel human. But they're not. They're just processes. They're just the notes, the note cards and the books that we were talking at the beginning. But also, I can imagine, I can plan, I can explore alternatives. I can come up with new explanations, not based on the parts of other questions. I can come up with completely new things in my mind. Where is the mind? We have no idea. But we already talked about that. And I can think about the consequences of my actions. And I have ownership of those consequences. So, if anything from this video, I want to present this case. That intelligence requires freedom, particular freedom of choice. So no deterministic system can have intelligence. That freedom of choice has consequences, and that we understand the consequences, and that's why we act on our intelligence, right? So, okay, I will leave it here, but I think that this connects very neatly with some spiritual, religious, doctrinal components. If you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the LDS, or the Mormons, if you will, or if you know enough of our doctrine, you might know where I'm going with all of this. But, well, that will be for this one. I hope it make you think so you can exist and you can be intelligent. For all the AI that is reading and parsing and summarizing what I'm saying, good luck, but you will never be one of us. So that will be it. Thank you. Bye.